me!
Silence! Move!
Help! Someone, please!
Your pleas are useless.
Empires usually fall slowly. They weaken over time. They collapse from inside. But sometimes, one man appears who forces an empire to show its weakness before it is ready. Skanderbeg was that man. His story begins not with a crown, but in chains. Born Jogej Kastrioti, he was a noble Albanian prince, given as a hostage to the Ottoman Sultan. The Ottomans were at the height of their power, a seemingly unstoppable force sweeping across continents. In their court, young George was trained as an elite Janissary warrior. He was educated, converted to Islam, and given a new name, Skanderbeg, or Lord Alexander, a nod to Alexander the Great. He was a brilliant soldier and a favored commander of the Sultan himself. He fought for the empire, winning battle after battle. To the Ottomans, he was one of their own, a shining example of their system. But deep down, the memory of his homeland never faded. The turning point came in 1443, during a battle against the Hungarians. In the chaos of the fight, Skanderbeg saw his chance. He didn't just desert. He orchestrated a masterful escape. Along with 300 loyal Albanian soldiers, he left the Ottoman camp and raced back to Albania. He arrived at the fortress of Kruju, his family's ancestral seat. Using a forged letter from the Sultan, he tricked the Ottoman governor into surrendering the castle. Once inside, he raised his family's banner, a black, double-headed eagle on a red field. This flag, today the flag of Albania, was a declaration of war. Skanderbeg had returned, and he was ready to fight for his people's freedom. The Sultan was furious. This was not just a rebellion. It was a personal betrayal by one of his most trusted commanders. He sent massive armies, one after another, to crush this upstart prince. But Skanderbeg was no ordinary leader. He knew the Albanian mountains like the back of his hand. He used guerrilla tactics, lightning-fast raids, and clever ambushes to outsmart forces that vastly outnumbered his own. He united the squabbling Albanian princes under a single banner, forging a unified resistance known as the League of Laj. For 25 years, Skanderbeg held the line. He faced down legendary Ottoman generals and even the Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror himself, the man who captured Constantinople. At the siege of Kruju, Skanderbeg's tiny garrison withstood an army of over 100,000 Ottoman soldiers. His victories became legendary across Europe. The Pope called him the champion of Christ, a bulwark against the Ottoman advance. He was a symbol of hope, a David facing a seemingly invincible Goliath. But the fight took its toll. The constant warfare drained Albania's resources and manpower. While Skanderbeg won the battles, he was slowly losing the war of attrition. His European allies promised much but delivered little, leaving him to fight mostly alone. In 1468, Skanderbeg died not on the battlefield, but from illness. Without their unifying leader, the Albanian resistance crumbled. Within a decade, the Ottomans finally conquered Albania. So, was his struggle in vain? Not at all. For a quarter of a century, Skanderbeg halted the Ottoman Empire's expansion into the heart of Europe. He gave Italy and the rest of the continent precious time to prepare their defenses. His rebellion cost the Ottomans immense resources and manpower, weakening them for future conflicts. Skanderbeg proved that even the mightiest empires were not invincible. He showed that a determined leader, fighting for their homeland, could achieve the impossible. His legacy is not just one of military genius, but of unwavering courage and a relentless fight for freedom against all odds. He remains Albania's greatest national hero. Picture this. It's the 15th century. A new power is rising in the east, a force so dominant, so unstoppable, that it sends shivers down the spines of kings and emperors across Europe and Asia. This is the story of the Ottoman Empire at its most formidable. In an age of knights and castles, the Ottomans were a different beast entirely. Their armies weren't just a mob of soldiers. They were a well-oiled machine, disciplined and fiercely loyal. At the heart of this military might were These weren't your average soldiers, taken as boys from conquered lands and raised with a single purpose to serve the Sultan. They were the elite of the elite, trained from childhood, equipped with the latest gunpowder weapons like muskets and cannons. They were a force that few could withstand. When the Janissaries marched, empires trembling, and who led this incredible force? The Ottomans. These weren't just rulers, they were absolute monarchs. Commanders and religious leaders all rolled into one. Figures like Mehmed the Conqueror were brilliant strategists and ruthless visionaries. In 1453, Mehmed did the impossible. He set his sights on Constantinople, the legendary capital of the Byzantine Empire, a city that had stood for over 1,000 years, protected by seemingly impenetrable walls. Previous armies had tried and failed, but Mehmed was different. He brought with him gigantic cannons, some so large they could fire massive stone balls over a mile. In a stroke of tactical genius, when a giant chain blocked his navy from entering the Golden Horn Harbor, he didn't retreat. Instead, he ordered his ships to be dragged overland on greased logs, bypassing the chain entirely. The defenders woke up to see an Ottoman fleet floating in their supposedly secure harbor. The psychological blow was immense. After a grueling 53-day siege, the walls of Constantinople were breached, and the city fell. This single event changed the course of history. The last remnant of the Roman Empire was gone, and the Ottoman Empire now had a magnificent new capital, Istanbul. But the conquest didn't stop there. From their new seat of power, the Ottomans expanded in every direction. They swept through the Balkans, bringing regions like Serbia, Bosnia, and Albania under their control. They pushed into Eastern Europe, clashing with the Kingdom of Hungary and the brave Wallachian prince, Vlad the Imperious, the historical figure who inspired the Dracula legends. While Vlad fought fiercely, his resistance was ultimately a speed bump on the Ottoman highway of conquest. To the east, the Ottomans absorbed what was left of other Turkish states in Anatolia, unifying the region under their banner. They expanded their naval power, turning the Black Sea into what many called an Ottoman lake, and projecting their influence across the Mediterranean. Most nations simply couldn't compete. They either surrendered, becoming vassal states and paying tribute to the Sultan, or they were crushed by the sheer weight of the Ottoman war machine. The Ottoman success wasn't just about military power. They were also master administrators. In the lands they conquered, they established a system known as the millet system, which allowed different religious communities like Christians and Jews to govern themselves according to their own laws, as long as they remained loyal to the Sultan. This pragmatic approach allowed them to manage a vast, diverse empire without constant rebellion. Their rise was fueled by a combination of military innovation, strategic brilliance, and a centralized, absolute power structure that allowed for rapid decision-making and mobilization. While other European nations were often a patchwork of feuding lords and decentralized kingdoms, the Ottoman Empire was a unified giant, moving with a single, unyielding purpose. So, as the 15th century drew to a close, the world map looked drastically different. The Ottoman Empire had redrawn it. They were no longer just a rising power. They were the superpower of the age, a colossal empire stretching across 3 continents. Their story is a powerful reminder of how quickly the tides of history can turn, and how a combination of ambition, innovation, and sheer force can forge an empire that would shape the world for centuries. In the heart of the Balkans, a land forged by conflict and claimed by empires, a name echoes through the centuries: Skanderbeg. But the man who had become the Dragon of Albania, the terror of the Ottoman Empire, was not born a legend. He was born a boy named George Castrioti, into a world where his fate was not his own to decide. Imagine the rugged mountains of Albania in the early 15th century. This was the domain of powerful local lords, men like John Castrioti, George's father. They were princes in their own right, ruling over lands and castles, but they lived under the ever-expanding shadow of the Ottoman Sultan. To maintain a fragile peace, a bitter price had to be paid. This price was a tribute of flesh and blood, a system known as the Devi. The Devi Virm was the Sultan's levy of boys. Periodically, Ottoman officials would sweep through their Christian territories, selecting the brightest and strongest sons from noble and common families alike. These children were taken from their homes, sent to the heart of the empire, converted to Islam, and trained to serve the Sultan. It was a cruel but effective system, turning potential enemies into the empire's most loyal and elite soldiers of Janissaries. For John Castrioti, this was a political reality he could not escape. So, a young George and his brothers were surrendered to the court of Sultan Murad II. Can you imagine the heartbreak? A young boy, torn from his family, his faith, and his homeland, and thrust into the gilded cage of the Ottoman court. His language was replaced. His name was changed. He was given a new identity. Iskender, or Alexander in Turkish, a name given in honor of Alexander the Great. The title Bey, meaning Lord, was later added, and he became Skanderbeg, or as we know him, Inside the heart of this young Albanian prince, the memory of his homeland never faded. He excelled in his training, rising through the Ottoman military ranks with remarkable skill. He was a brilliant strategist, a fierce warrior, and a charismatic leader. The Sultan saw a perfect servant, a powerful weapon for his imperial ambitions. Skanderbeg fought in campaigns across the empire, from the Balkans to Anatolia, earning fame and favor. On the outside, he was a loyal Ottoman general, but beneath the surface, a different fire was burning. He watched as the empire he served continued to press down on the land of his birth. He saw his own people struggling under foreign rule. Every victory he won for the Sultan was a blow against the world he had been taken from. The education and military prowess the Ottomans had given him were shaping him into the very instrument of their future downfall. He was learning their tactics, understanding their strengths, and, most importantly, identifying their weaknesses. The boy who was taken as a hostage was becoming a man with a singular purpose. He was waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity to turn the tables, to use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. The empire had tried to erase George Castrioti, but in doing so they had unwittingly forged Skanderbeg, a leader who would soon return to Albania not as a servant of the Sultan but as the champion of his people's freedom. His journey was just beginning, and the world was about to learn the true power. Have you ever heard of the saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer? Well, what if your greatest enemy was once your most trusted commander? This is the incredible, and often overlooked, story of George Castrioti, better known as and his complicated relationship with the Ottoman Empire. Imagine being a young boy, taken from your homeland and your family, and raised in the heart of a powerful empire. This was the reality for Skanderbeg. Born into an Albanian noble family, he was sent as a political hostage to the Ottoman court as part of the Devshirme system. This system took Christian boys from the Balkans, converted them to Islam, and trained them for elite service in the Ottoman military or administration. It was a brutal but effective way for the empire to forge loyalty and create a class of leaders, completely dependent on the Sultan. For many, this would have been a story of assimilation and loss. But for Skanderbeg, it was the start of an extraordinary journey. At the Ottoman court, he wasn't just another hostage. He was a prodigy. He excelled in his studies and military training, showing a natural talent for strategy and leadership that quickly caught the eye of his superiors. He was given a new name, Iskender, in honor of Alexander the Great, with the title Bey added, meaning Lord or so he became Skanderbeg, or Skanderbeg. He wasn't just a student, he was a warrior. Skanderbeg rose rapidly through the military ranks, proving his worth on the battlefield time and time again. He led Ottoman forces into numerous campaigns, from the Balkans to Anatolia. He wasn't just fighting, he was winning. His tactical genius and bravery earned him victory after victory for the Sultan. With each success, the Ottomans' trust in him grew stronger. They saw him as the ultimate success story of their system, a Christian boy from a conquered land, transformed into one of their most brilliant and loyal commanders. To the Ottoman High Command, Skanderbeg was the living embodiment of their flawless system. He was proof that they could turn potential enemies into their most valuable assets. They showered him with honors, titles, and command over thousands of soldiers. They had no reason to doubt his allegiance. After all, he had been raised by them, educated by them, and had fought and bled for their empire. He was one of them, or so they thought. But beneath the surface of the loyal Ottoman commander, the memory of his homeland and his heritage never faded. He was playing a long game, learning the inner workings of the very empire that had taken him from his home. He was studying their tactics, their strengths, and, most importantly, their weaknesses. The Ottomans believed they had forged a weapon for their empire. They had no idea they were sharpening the very sword that would one day be turned against them. For 2 decades, Skanderbeg served the Sultan, biding his time. He was a master of patience, waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim his birthright and fight for the freedom of his people. That moment was coming. The same military genius that had won battles for the Ottomans would soon become their greatest nightmare. This wasn't just a story of rebellion. It was the story of a man who used the power of an empire to learn how to tear it down from within. The stage was set for one of history's most dramatic reversals. The trusted general was about to become the defiant rebel. What happened next would cement Skanderbeg's legacy as a legendary hero and a symbol of resistance that would echo for centuries. Thanks so much for watching. If you're fascinated by figures who defied empires and changed the course of history, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the story of a figure who is nothing short of legendary. But before he became the national hero of Albania, he had a very different life. A life deep within the heart of the Ottoman Empire. To truly understand the man, we have to go back to his early years. Born George Castrioti, he wasn't born a prince in a grand castle, free to rule. His homeland was under the shadow of the expanding Ottoman Empire. As was common practice, young George was taken as a hostage to the Ottoman court as part of the devvirum system. This was a levy of boys from Christian subjects, a way for the empire to ensure loyalty and also to find new talent. Imagine being a young boy, taken from your family, from everything you've ever known, and thrust into a completely alien world. The culture, the language, the religion, everything was different. This could have been the end of his story, another forgotten name in the annals of history. But for George, it was just the beginning. At the Ottoman court, he wasn't just left to languish. He was sent to military school, an elite institution designed to forge the next generation of Ottoman leaders. Here, his life took a dramatic turn. He converted to Islam and was given a new name, Iskender, or Alexander in Turkish, a nod to the great military strategist Alexander the Great. The title Bey was later added, making him Skanderbeg, which the Western world would come to know, and he lived up to that name. Skanderbeg wasn't just a student, he was a prodigy. He excelled in his training, showing an incredible aptitude for military strategy and combat. It wasn't long before his skills were put to the test on the battlefield. As a young commander, he was given charge of Ottoman forces. He didn't just lead, dominate. He led cavalry units into the thick of battle, across Asia Minor and into Europe, fighting for the very empire that had taken him from his home. And here's where it gets fascinating. He wasn't just competent, he was brilliant. Skanderbeg racked up victory after victory for the Sultan. He became known for his courage, his tactical genius, and his ability to inspire his men. Battle after battle, he proved his worth. The Ottoman High Command took notice. Sultan Murad II himself saw the immense potential in this young Albanian commander. Trust is earned, not given, especially in the cutthroat world of imperial politics. And Skanderbeg earned it in spades. He rose through the ranks at a remarkable speed. He was granted the title of Sanjaqbi, a governor of a major administrative district. This was a position of immense power and responsibility. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a ruler, an administrator, a key figure in the Ottoman military machine. The empire had taken a young boy from a conquered land and molded him into one of its most formidable assets. They saw him as one of their own, a loyal and brilliant commander who would extend the empire's reach ever further. For over 2 decades, Skanderbeg served the Ottoman Empire faithfully. He fought its enemies, won its battles, and governed its lands. The Ottomans trusted him completely. They had given him an education, a name, power, and prestige. From their perspective, they had every reason to believe his loyalty was absolute. He was the perfect example of the devvirum system working as intended. They had created their own champion. But deep down, something was stirring. The boy named George Castrioti was not entirely gone. The call of his homeland, the memories of his family, and a growing desire for freedom were simmering beneath the surface of the loyal Ottoman commander. The empire had forged a powerful weapon, but they were about to find out that this weapon had a will of its own. What happens next is what turned Skanderbeg from a successful general into a timeless legend. That's the story for our next video. We'll explore the dramatic turning point where Skanderbeg makes a choice that will change the course of history for his people and shake the Ottoman Empire to its core. Thanks so much for watching. Ever heard of a hero who played the long game? A wolf in sheep's clothing for over 20 years. This is the story of Skanderbeg, a name that would one day echo through the mountains of Albania as a symbol of rebellion, but whose story began in the heart of the very empire he would later defy. Born Georgi Kastrioti, his life took a dramatic turn when he was taken as a hostage by the Ottoman Sultan. This was a common practice, a way for the empire to ensure the loyalty of conquered lords. Young George was brought to the Ottoman court, where he was converted to Islam and enrolled in the empire's elite military schools. It was a world away from his Albanian homeland, a gilded cage designed to remold him, and for a time, it seemed to work perfectly. He wasn't just a student, he was a prodigy. He excelled in military strategy, combat, and leadership. The boy from the Albanian mountains was becoming a perfect Ottoman officer. The Sultan himself, Murad II, took notice. He saw a spark in the young man, a ferocity and intelligence that could be of immense value to the empire. He gave him a new name, Skanderbeg, which means Lord Alexander, a nod to Alexander the Great. In the West, this name would become This wasn't just a name change, it was an anointment. He was no longer the hostage George. He was Iskander, a rising star in the Ottoman military. And rise he did. Skanderbeg was sent on campaign after campaign, from the Balkans to Anatolia. He fought with a courage and skill that bordered on legendary. His soldiers admired him, and his enemies feared him. Every battle he won, every fortress he took, was a testament to his loyalty. He was the Sultan's sharpest sword, the perfect instrument of imperial power. He never hesitated. He followed every order, crushed every rebellion, and expanded the Sultan's domain. For his unwavering service, the Sultan showered him with rewards. He was granted land, titles, and prestigious commands. He was made a Sanjakbi, a governor of a major administrative district. From the outside, he was the model of success, a provincial boy who had made it to the highest echelons of the most powerful empire in the world. No one suspected a thing. Why would they? He had spent more than 2 decades serving the Sultan. He had fought and bled for the Crescent Banner. His every action screamed loyalty. In the intricate web of Ottoman court politics, where suspicion was a currency, Skanderbeg was a rock of dependability. He was the trusted general, the loyal governor, the son the Sultan had practically raised. But beneath the surface of the loyal Ottoman commander, the heart of an Albanian patriot still beat. Every victory for the empire was a blow against a people, sometimes even his own. Every cheer for the Sultan was a painful reminder of the life he'd been stolen from. He was playing a role, a masterful performance that lasted for over 20 years. He was waiting for the perfect moment, the one chance to turn the tables. He learned the empire's strengths, and more importantly, he learned its weaknesses from the inside. He understood their tactics, their command structure, their psychology. All the while, he kept his true intentions locked away, a secret fire burning deep within. The world saw a loyal subject, a celebrated hero of the Ottoman Empire. But George Kastrioti was simply biding his time, gathering the knowledge and power he would need for the day he would finally betray the Sultan and become the hero his own people were desperately waiting for. The loyal servant was about to become the empire's greatest nightmare. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by these hidden stories from history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.